Hey guys, it's Nick with Braindead, and in this video we'll be recapping the events of Halloween Kills, a movie that was single-handedly ruined by Ghostbusters Afterlife. I liked Halloween Kills. I know a lot of people didn't, but as a Michael Myers fanboy myself, it had a lot of what I wanted to see in a Halloween movie, such as Michael Myers brutally killing people, and messages about evil and how it's going to die tonight.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
All right.
I love Michael Myers, and this movie used Michael Myers, and in my opinion, they used him effectively. He's still that unstoppable force of evil, and they really punctuate that over and over again in this movie as he just goes around killing. And y'all know that I'm really big on gore and practical effects, something that this movie also used super effectively. However, I'm not just gonna sit here and ignore that it has flaws, right? It's very much one of those movies that has way too much going on all at once, and it feels very unfocused because of that. And it also has one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to horror movies, and that's a couple of stupid characters. I truly just cannot stand when characters make dumb decisions, and this movie has a couple of, has a handful of scenes of characters just being plain dumb. Drives me crazy. But hey, overall, I have a good time when I watch this movie. Hopefully you enjoy it too, but if you don't, that's completely valid, and hey, maybe you'll like this recap. So let's get into it. The movie picks up immediately after the last one, with Cameron trying to get a hold of Oscar, who at this point has already been got by Michael. He spots Officer Hawkins' body lying in the road, finding that he survived the stab wound Dr. Sartain inflicted in the previous film. While help is on the way for Hawkins, we're treated to a flashback taking place in 1978, where a young man, Hawkins, is hunting a young boogeyman, Michael, down. Hawkins and his partner, Pete, track Michael to his childhood home, and they split up to search the place. Pete makes his way to Michael's old bedroom, and as he notices some boot prints, he's ambushed by the shape. By the time Hawkins gets there, Pete is already half dead, so he shoots him in the neck to make sure the job gets done properly. If you want something done right... Michael then just casually walks back down the stairs while being shot at by Hawkins. Again. Well, the first time, technically, because this is a flashback, but the second time for us, because we saw the previous film, it doesn't matter. Anyway, Michael doesn't get too far outside before more police show up and arrest him. Back in present day, we catch up with an all-grown-up Tommy Doyle, who is hanging out at a bar with his support group for fellow boogeyman survivors, which includes an also grown-up Lindsay Wallace, Marion Chambers, and Lonnie Elam, who is Cameron's father. He's also the same Lonnie Loomis pranked in the original film.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
Apparently, after getting his ass away from there, Lonnie also had a run-in with Michael back in '78. However, we're only shown that in this movie in a flashback. Tommy tells the bar people about his experience with the boogeyman all those years ago, and together they commemorate those lost and affected. Soon after this mood-killing Tight 5, the legacy characters make some new friends named Vanessa and Marcus, a couple that was briefly seen in H4O, but will definitely get more to do in this film. As they're busy chatting, Lonnie gets a call from Cameron about the Hawkins situation and leaves to go get him. The rest of the crew at the bar then see a news report detailing the murders that took place earlier that night. Tommy correctly assumes Michael is responsible, seeing his blurry face on screen as one of the two unaccounted for escapees from the prisoner bus crash. Van and Mark also head out as they realize that the killings took place on their block. On their way to the car, however, Mark notices that his stethoscope is missing, calling back to when we saw them in the previous film.
Wait, hang on. I don't have my stethoscope. I need it. I'm gonna get it. I'll be right back.
Vanessa goes to start the car and doesn't check the back seat. What is wrong with you people? This is the third Halloween movie that I've covered in a row where somebody doesn't check the back seat and expects to live to the sequel. Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. Obviously, Michael kills Vanessa by letting her out of the car and run for help. This is my script, by the way. Alright, seems a bit odd for the shape, but whatever. Vanessa recruits Tommy with a baseball bat, who comes out and smacks the car, forcing Michael to make his escape and drive away. So it looks like he's getting away yet again, since we all know he somehow learned to drive back in '78. Okay, what the hell is going on here? This is not the Michael Myers that we've come to know and love. What did this movie do to our boogeyman? Oh, that's not Michael. That's the other escapee from the bus crash, who we also saw briefly in H4O at the Smiths Grove Rehab Center. He scampers off somewhere, leaving the angry mob to wonder where Michael went. Well, he's still trapped in Laurie's burning basement. Or at least he was until some unsuspecting firefighters came along and accidentally freed him. He then kills all of those firefighters with their own tools. After this, he makes his way over to Phil and Sandra's house, Laurie's neighbors, interrupting their drone pilot training. He grabs Phil and impales his neck on a shard of glass, then goes after Sandra, who brings her escape attempt to a screeching halt for some reason, and just stands there as Michael takes a fluorescent tube light and stabs her in the neck with it. He then drags Phil into the kitchen and stabs each of their kitchen knives into his back until he finds one that he wants to keep. All the while, a still conscious Sandra watches, unable to do anything. And I'll just go ahead and spoil this because it doesn't matter. This actually didn't kill Sandra, as we do see her in Halloween Ends. She is in a wheelchair, damn near comatose, but hey, she survived, so that's... Speaking of people who survived, Laurie gets taken to the hospital and goes into surgery to stitch up her wounds. Karen and Allison take this time to finally take a moment and mourn the loss of Ray. The police question both Karen and Allison about what happened to Laurie when they get the unfortunate news that
Michael Myers is alive.
the only one not aware of Michael's rise from the ashes is Laurie, who Karen chooses to keep in the dark about the situation, seeing as how Laurie seems to finally be happy for the first time in 40 years. Cameron arrives at the hospital and recruits Allison to go with him and Lonnie to help hunt Michael down. An idea that Karen is understandably against, but Allison sneaks off to join the mob anyway, meeting Tommy as he also arrives at the hospital. Also joining them is everyone we met earlier at the bar, including new friends Van and Mark. They all grab some guns, courtesy of Lonnie, and split into 3 groups. Group number 1 is Lonnie, Cameron, and Allison, who go out warning people.
Get back in your fucking houses!
Group number 2 is Vanessa, Marcus, Marion, and Lindsay, who go hunting for Michael. In group 3, Tommy, who goes around gathering up an even bigger group. Meanwhile, we meet the new occupants of the former Myers house, John and, John, although they refer to each other as Big John and Little John to differentiate. The Johns receive the one good scare they're entitled to in the form of a kid knocking on their door. What's worse is that the girl claims that their friend swallowed a razor blade that was stuck in a candy bar they got from the Johns. This, however, turns out to be a ploy in order for a third friend to steal all of the candy from the Johns' house. They do get a little instant payback though by telling the kids about the curse of Michael Myers and how bad that movie was. Not even the ever-lovable Paul Rudd could save that shit.
Get out of my yard, you little pervert!
Anyway, they scurry off over to a nearby park where the Hunter group arrives shortly thereafter. Lindsay goes to shoo them away before the boogeyman shows up, but it's already too late for one of the little candy thieves. The other two run home as Michael jumps on the car, mirroring Marion's misfortunate meeting with Michael 40 years earlier. He taunts them for a bit, forcing Marion to spend all of her ammo so that when he finally comes down,
This is for Dr. Loomis.
he stabs Marion to death, then as Marcus tries to help, sticks the blade up through his eye. Vanessa, who is able to escape the car with one of the guns, comes back to avenge her group mates, but is ultimately defeated by a car door. Lindsay also comes back, having filled one of the kids' candy bags with bricks, and tries to beat Michael into submission with it. This is still somehow ineffective against the killer, as he's able to grab her by the throat. She's able to get away, however, by nearly prying the mask off of Michael's face. He chases her into the woods, where she successfully hides from him long enough for him to get bored and walk away. Soon after, Lonnie, Cam, and Allison spot Tommy while making their rounds and pull over to see what's going on. They split up to search, and while one team finds the bodies of their dead friends, the other team stumbles upon Lindsay, who is still alive, albeit significantly shaken up. They take Lindsay to the hospital, where Tommy single-handedly turns the entire crowd against the police department.
Evil dies tonight!
Evil dies tonight!
All right, everybody, calm down.
And as if that wasn't chaotic enough, he then bursts into Lori's room and lets her know that Michael's alive. This prompts her to stick herself full of drugs so she can help fight him off. As she joins the angry mob, the second inmate that crashed the car from earlier shows up at the hospital looking for medical attention. The crowd mistakes him for Michael, cause little pudgy men can be brick shithouse serial killers too, right? I suppose they did show both inmates in the news report from earlier, and in a mindless, angry mob where people just completely stop thinking for themselves. Multiple people yelling, "It's Michael," because they see a prisoner uniform on a guy they saw on the TV. I can kinda see why they might think it was Michael, maybe. Look, I'm not saying it's a solid explanation, I'm just saying it's a potential one. Lori and Karen realize it's not Michael, but it's too late. The mob who cried shape is too fixated on killing the man to listen to reason. So Lori decides to take her frustration out on one of the doctors and rips her stitches when she knees him in the dick. This sends her back to her hospital room, where she remains for the rest of the movie. Elsewhere, in an attempt to save the inmate, Karen locks him in a secured hallway. Unfortunately, the crowd is too big, and as the doors start to give way, the inmate climbs out onto the ledge through a window and jumps to his death. But you know, he was in an institution for the criminally insane, right? So I'd like to think he was in there for something heinous, like murdering kids. Just like that awful weasel thing in the Suicide Squad. In which case, fuck him, right? Anyway, let's check in with the Johns. They're sitting around watching a movie when they hear someone knocking on both of their front and back doors. Finding no one at the back door, and assuming it's those little perverts from earlier, Big John grabs a golf club and yells at them from the front porch. It's only when they find a bloody handprint that they realize someone's in their house. And instead of getting out of there and calling the police, they grab a couple of knives and split up to search for the intruder. They die. Obviously, Michael kills Big John by stabbing him in the armpit and pushing his thumbs through the dude's eyes. Good God. Little John dies off-screen, becoming the second character in this movie to just stand there and let Michael kill them. Back at the hospital, we learn that all of this is mostly Hawkins' fault, since apparently someone just had to stop Loomis from doing what needed to be done back in '78.
And in that moment, all I could think was that inside that monster there was somebody's baby boy.
Well, I hope you learned your lesson, Hawkins. No more empathy. He also fills everyone in on the fact that Michael just wants to go home and was never targeting Laurie specifically, which is what both Laurie and Karen believed up until this point, because to them, back in H4O, Michael just kind of showed up on their property. They had no idea that Sartain had brought him there on purpose, so they just assumed that Michael was there for personal reasons. With this information, Tommy and Karen head over to the Myers residence in hopes to stop Michael for good. At the same time, group number 1 has already shown up at Michael's place after figuring out the shape go home thing by themselves. All they had to do was look at a map of all the locations he's been throughout the night.
Basically an arrow pointing straight to Lampkin Lane, Michael's childhood home.
As they're about to storm the place, it only now occurs to Lonnie that he's putting his son in danger. So, instead of calling and waiting for backup, Lonnie decides to go in alone. About 10 seconds later, the kids hear a gunshot, sending them into a frenzy to get into the house themselves. Once inside, they go upstairs to find the dead Johns, and as Allison inspects their bodies, Cameron goes off to take more of a look around. He discovers his father's corpse, shoved up into the attic, killed off-screen while, I can only assume, standing still. Finally. Take me, Daddy Michael. Michael pops out of a closet and attacks Cameron, stabbing him in the stomach, then dispatching Allison when she tries to help. Immobilized, Allison can only watch in horror as Michael brutally kills Cameron in front of her. Setting his sights on her next, he overpowers Allison and is about to kill her when Karen comes in with the save. She steals the mask off of him, and we all know Mikey can't be seen without his mask, so he goes after Karen, who leads him into an ambush. The crowd beats the piss and shit out of Michael, one guy even getting 5 shots into him. Karen also gets a shot in, sticking his own knife into his back, and it looks like the boogeyman is down for good. He gets back up and kills everyone. Everyone, including OG Sheriff Brackett and Tommy. Mr. You Can't Kill the Boogeyman himself. What a sad day. But it doesn't stop there, because back at the Myers house, Karen goes upstairs to Michael's room, and the movie ends with Michael killing Karen and staring out the window. Thanks for watching this recap, and actually, if you could just give me 1 second here. This is really hot in this thing, so yeah, that's much better, actually. Alright, yeah, that's way better. Alright, yeah, thanks again for watching this recap. So it looks like we're done for the Halloween series for now. I will cover ends when I can get my hands on a Blu-ray. But hey, you know, that just means that I can move on to some requests and movies that I want to cover. Oh god, no. Oh, come on, man. Why? I just want to cover Hereditary, man. I just want to do Hereditary. But you know, I guess it's not all bad. I also love those movies too. I swear I will do Hereditary the moment that I get the opportunity to cover a movie that I want to cover. Not that I don't want to cover all these other things, but they are established franchises that have new movies coming out. I really need the clicks as a teeny tiny itty bitty YouTube channel. I need the clicks, need the subs. I gotta cover those ones first. Thank you in advance for understanding, and look forward to, Evil Dead, Scream, The Exorcist even. Like, all of these franchises got new movies coming out, and I do love all of those movies as well, so still gonna be a good time. If you want to see more of me, I do have a gaming live stream channel called Brain Alive. Clever, I know. Sometimes I edit these videos over on Twitch if you just want to hang out and chat and whatnot, get a little behind the scenes there. And I'm everywhere at Brain Dead Horror if you want to follow me anywhere there. Otherwise, that's all I got for you for this one, so thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys again real soon.
Beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful, beautiful. Okay, this is actually kind of a little too sexy. Next.